Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. As always, thank you so much for being here. I was off last week, so it's always good to come back and be back next week, this week, today. Who knows? So again, thank you for being here. As we always warm into these sessions, as we're letting people join, whether you're on the West Coast in the U.S. or in any other part of the world, it takes a little time for us to warm into these sessions. Very, very common. So I'm going to slow roll as we're coming in. So obviously, the hellos, the warm and fuzzies, you can see and hear me okay. All that stuff is great and valuable for me as I come into these sessions. So, first step in any live is when I produce a video the day before, and usually I produce long form original content on Mondays. Let's just take a moment to talk about yesterday's video because it's one of the most critical communication tips that I can give in job interviews. And specifically, that's speaking at the fifth grade level. You will rarely find me using big words in my videos, in these live sessions. And when I communicate with anybody in general, I don't use abbreviations. I don't use big words. I don't speak in overly technical language because there's no need for it. We can always speak at the fifth grade level. And what that does is it doesn't alienate our audience. And so, the biggest coaching for speaking at the fifth grade level is politicians. Politicians are taught to speak at the fifth grade level so they don't alienate anybody. Same thing in a job interview. And so, if you haven't had a chance to watch yesterday's video, I think it's about an 11-minute video, but what I talk about is some tips and tricks for having success to speak at the fifth grade level. And then what you want to be thinking about as well is like, as you go into those interviews, just how do we set it up? So much of the confusion in job interviews, we all know if we're casting a wide net, that the vast majority of job interviews are going to have a pretty decent amount of behavioral questions. So, the setup where everything gets lost in communication most often is that situation and task. Big words, company specific words, abbreviations, and boom, your interviewer's lost and the rest of the story doesn't land. Practice speaking at the fifth grade level. Uh, there is someone on LinkedIn who comments a lot on some of my posts, and they always use extremely complex language, and they're trying to sound smart, but they're alienating everybody with those comments. It's a lot. All right. So if this is your first time here, welcome. As you're coming into this session, say hello. Let me know where you're visiting from. Let me know that you can see and hear me okay. And still doing lots of stuff with the business. app.practiceinterviews.com. I'm always going to highlight that. The tool is getting really, really fantastic. And we've lowered the price point of it too. So if you're practicing and you're not using an AI tool, it's just going to come in at a low price point that's really going to help you. And it's going to sound like me. And that's kind of the joke. And I've probably said this before. That's the joke. Everybody tells me, hey, Jeff, it sounds exactly like you. That's the goal. That's how we've built the engineering behind it. I'm still doing one-on-one practice interviews, one-on-one career strategy. That's mostly resume, LinkedIn, networking strategies, and definitely still crushing it on the one-on-one negotiation side of things. Still have that great interview mastery course as well, which was updated late last year to really bring in that AI component because obviously we know that's pretty relevant today. So it looks like we have a pretty sleepy audience today. So I'm just going to warm into it. And then the goal of all these sessions, this is generic Q&A. Ask anything. Anything and everything is on the table. And then in our downtime, we're going to talk about mental health. It's mental health in general is just a really, really important concept to be talking about. It's something that a lot of people struggle with. And then the job search can create a lot of internal negative feelings. And so we'll talk about that as well. Again, it looks like we have a small audience today, so I will push to keep the engagement as high as we can. And the more questions you bring, the more time we'll hang out. Thank you. Okay. Okay, Liz, brilliant topic. Job search has dragged on way too long here as well. Um, yeah, let's talk about this. I mean, I think that one of the items that's going to be really important for everyone is to just maybe like a little bit of a mental reset on how long the job search is going to take. So if we get into job search, or we have a job and we're looking, or we're considering, um sorry, if we actively have a job and we're looking, or we don't have a job and we're looking, 1 year. Yeah, I mean, and that's something that may be incredibly difficult for people to hear, but 1 year is probably going to be more of the average than what we've seen in the past. And just anybody who's out there, Liz, Daphne, anybody who wants to come in and speak to this, like, it's just taking a lot longer. There's less jobs, there's more competition, and the amount of available jobs is going to get leaner and leaner over time. And again, so like we think about our mental health. So like, what are some best tips and practices for really focusing on and dealing with our mental health and job search? Well, one great way is to, there's lots of great things that we're going to talk about today, but one is set goals, have a plan. Set the goals and have a plan, and then that will help you feel way, way better just about yourself and how you're going through the process. And then I would say, like, these shouldn't be 8, 10, 12-hour days. Make the job search a 4 to 6 hour day, so you can maybe get to it right in the morning. Then you can go get outside, you can exercise, you can do some leisurely things that you're going to enjoy. It's really hard to job search for 8, 10, or 12 hours a day. So let's pause. Let's go through some items here, and then we will come back and talk more about this. Steamy Sarasota, glad you're back. Very relevant topic. And my office is so hot today. It is the first real sunny morning in San Diego. I have this huge window in my office, and it's extremely hot in here. The AC is not working. So I may need to step away and turn on my fan or something. It's so hot. Thank you. Hey, Jeff from Miami. Hope you had a great conference. I was at the NACE conference last week in Philly, and I just want to like give them a quick shout out. Like, that whole organization, like, they threw on such a great event, such a great conference. I met so many amazing people, and 99% of the people I met were gracious and kind and friendly, and I had to engage with a lot of people. So, one of the things I'll kind of recommend and go a little bit on a tangent here, because we have a small audience today, is, one of the biggest values of going to that conference last week is I do everything behind the camera. It's very easy. It's easy to talk to a camera. I'm talking to myself. I'm in my own room. I'm by myself, right? So that makes it really easy. It's taxing and hard to engage with other humans. For those days were kind of like typically about 14-hour days. So it's a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, and it's very exhausting. But it's so valuable to push myself outside of my comfort zone. I haven't really done a lot of in person over the last 6.5 years. I've hid behind I've hid behind the webcam on my MacBook, and like that's been the journey. So, it's just a constant reminder when we do things that are a little outside of our comfort zone or hard. We really just, I don't know, we feel so much better about ourselves. It's good for our mental health. So actually, let's continue on this path. So one piece that I think not everybody loves in-person networking. Well, there's lots of different ways to in-person network. It can be in a really formal setting, like it's actually a networking event for jobs, or it's doing community service. But just push yourself to get out there, be in person. If you are still somebody who's concerned with any health challenges that are going on, definitely mask up, right? But it's just so important that we push ourselves outside of our comfort zone, because I feel like energetically like more positive about myself by going to that conference, pushing myself to be there, pushing myself to chat with every single person I interacted with, and it feels good. So that was good for my mental health. Not a job search, but growing my business, which is kind of, it's relevant. Yes, must need it. Absolutely. Okay. Some applications request a paragraph or two about why you're applying. For those that allow AI use, would you recommend asking GPT, Claude, etc., to write at the fifth grade level? Ooh, that's a fantastic question, Liz. Yeah, I mean, I think we know GPT in general, like its tone is somewhat interesting. I think if for anybody who's used Claude, and I'm a GPT or I just like early adopter, so I just default to what's comfortable. Claude has the best tone, and I don't even think it's close. There's just a manner and tone on Claude that's better. So I think even if you don't want multiple paid versions, using Claude for things where tone is incredibly important is it's a good platform for that. Um, but you could ask it to speak at the fifth grade level. I think that we can probably up our written communication to slightly above fifth grade, just because when people read, they process in a different way. But I haven't done any data or research on that. Again, I think if anybody's here, and I mentioned this a million times, but I'm a cognitive psychology guy, right? Like I just that's what I found in this journey that the reason why I push towards certain items is all backed by cognitive psychology. And like cognitive load is such a big part of speaking at the fifth grade level. When we overload our audience with something cognitively that they don't understand, they shut down. And that could be speaking at the seventh or eighth grade level, but it's just concepts they're not familiar with. And boom, they shut down and they stop listening. And then the job interview doesn't go well. But Liz, I love the idea. Test it and let us know what happens. And by the way, like just one like quick sidebar on this. We've probably talked about this. The long GPT dash. Wow, if you're going to use AI to do any writing, GPT has that long dash. That's not that dash isn't available on our keyboards, or maybe it's a double dash, but like definitely make sure you're removing those dashes because to me that's a flag you're using AI. I hope that helps. Excellent topic. Job search taking way longer than I expected and taking a toll. Made way worse by 2024 and 2025 big layoffs and contraction. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're speaking about the future state of jobs, right? And like, so it's going to be less jobs. And then followed by the following year where it's going to be even less jobs and less jobs. It's not like the past. AI's level of sophistication is simply going to remove jobs from the market, and those jobs will never return again. And so it's like, everybody's like so worried that I'm speaking from a gloom and doom perspective. Maybe that's my own mental way that I look at it, but we just got to be ready for that. And so, yeah, it's been incredibly challenging in today's market. And so it's a good reason to double down and really push now to find something before the job market gets worse. And we're going to see it. We're going to see AI like picking up at just speeds that we just didn't think were possible before. So yeah, it's been super challenging, and that's kind of as we talk through this, let's just bring in simple tips and tricks that are going to help. So like our breath is an incredibly important one. Like, yeah, we're just naturally breathing, but remembering to take really big and deep breaths throughout the day is really powerful and impactful. I think that practicing gratitude every day is a huge one. And, one of the things that I know I've talked about before in these live sessions, I'm grateful sometimes in the morning. I practice gratitude every single morning, and it's short, and I do it in my mind, and I sit and I get in a position where I'm practicing gratitude, and I'm grateful for a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I have food in my refrigerator. I'm grateful that I have this beautiful view that I can look out every morning as I do yoga. And like, it's just a little thing. Sometimes it's recognizing that we're lucky and fortunate. I mean, anybody who's watching this live, you're fortunate, right? You have more than the vast majority of people because not everybody has access to the internet, to their own computer, and can be here. So again, those are kind of just like some simple things that I think we can do on a daily basis to ground us. Doesn't mean it's not stressful, but if we kind of start the day with breathing, that right mindset and gratitude, it can really, really help. Good tip. I'm not sure what the tip was, but hopefully some of the tips have been helpful. Thanks for that. Recently, I saw a post about resumes not being enough. Employers want LinkedIn, GitHub, and other links. Question: what do you think about producing a video about your skills and goals and pinning it to LinkedIn? I love it. Liz, I absolutely love it. I think that content, what content does is it gives a little bit of a window into who we are as people, right? And hopefully anybody who's here has seen a little bit of my content. They like me, they trust me, they think that I'm providing value. And so I really think that LinkedIn, now GitHub, obviously, like that's getting more on the technical side of things. But I think any way that we can present ourselves so that people can get to know us, because again, the cover letters, people can argue for or against them. I definitely argue against them. I know that they don't get read for the most part, but LinkedIn is our ability to showcase us. And so, like Liz, you may even just take a shot at, you produce this really cool video about yourself, and that's your featured section on LinkedIn. Just roll with that for like a month. See if it gets engagement, see if it gets views. Like, I think with LinkedIn, it becomes, people are like, oh, I can optimize my profile, it's done. I literally change something on LinkedIn every week. I'm changing my headline every week. I'm playing around with the featured section. I'll change something in my experience. I'll definitely play with the banner quite a bit. So think about LinkedIn as just this ever breathing, living, changing thing. And so I love the idea of producing a video that talks about that. And I would put that in your featured section, see what happens. And of course, you can change your LinkedIn background image to say, hey, check out the video on me. And that's it, something like that. How about if you lost your job to cost cutting measures? Is that common these days? Yeah, that's kind of like, that's the number one. The number one is, we don't need as many employees. Let's reduce the cost of employees and let's up our bottom line and be more profitable. So that's actually the most common reason. Um, that's the most common reason we've seen for probably the last 3+ years, is it is a cost cutting measure. Now, sometimes it's the other big one. I would say cost cutting is number one. I would say number two is just product based. Like, the product isn't as successful as it was before. And sometimes now we have an ability to walk away from products much quicker, because it's like, hey, it didn't work. We got AI, we can build and develop things much, much faster. So that it's also product area that will be a reason why job loss happens. But cost cutting is the number one that I've seen. Thanks, Jimmy. I appreciate that. I always love, like, we know that, I mean, we know, I get a lot of repeat visitors, which I'm so grateful for, because they keep these lives going since it got sleepy. And it got sleepy a while ago. But anytime anybody comes in and gives gratitude, gratitude has two huge benefits. And the benefit is you're saying nice things to me. It makes me feel good, but it's more for you. Like, that idea and concept of being grateful and practicing gratitude is so, so important. So thank you. Just to add to mental health topic today, I find it helps to have a daily routine that includes blocks for exercise and learning. There's always new tech. There's always new tech as a UX engineer. Okay. I like that idea. Let's try something different. How long should that video be? What should the script outline be? Okay, cool. So if I were in job search mode, let's talk about how I'd plan my day. Okay. So if I were in job search mode, I would set up my day, at least the first half to like 1.5 of the day, or that doesn't sound right. But I would set up my day. I'd still like, I usually like to get up about 6 a.m. So I'd get up at 6 a.m. I would go right to the yoga mat. I do my yoga. I treat the yoga as meditation. I practice gratitude. I practice breathing, and I get into natural light. So it sets my mind and body right. And then again, if I was in job search, that would just be like that whole exercise, get cleaned up. That's only like an hour. So 7 o'clock, first place I'm going is I'm going to LinkedIn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at anybody who connected with me from the previous day, look at any follow ups, look at any of those items. And of course, I'm going to check my inbox to see if anything came in. Then I'm going to go to the plan that I set the night before, and I'm going to start chopping through that plan. And so much of it is just spending time networking on LinkedIn, trying to get referrals for jobs, and maybe applying to one job per day, maybe two jobs per day max. We're not going to apply to a ton of jobs. And when we do apply, we have to take that 5 to 10 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes, whatever it takes, the more you've done it, to recreate the summary section of our resume so it's really role aligned. But I'm probably going to do that from 7 to noon. And then, yeah, maybe I'll take a break. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to get outside. Obviously, I can do that year round in San Diego. I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. And then I'll probably come back. I'll probably do that for an hour, maybe 2 hours. I'll break. Maybe I'll do another exercise or whatever. Then I'll just come back and maybe I'll spend an hour setting my plan for the next day. And now we're looking at, it's 3 o'clock. Maybe I spend the next hour or two just doing some learning, some things I'm really interested in. 5 o'clock, your day is over and you don't have any follow-up that's required. And then you can repeat that each day. And I think having that plan and schedule is super valuable. Now that I'm like done talking, that seems like that was a lot, but I hope the organization of the day, something like that would help. Okay, I like that idea. Try something different. How long should that video be? What would be the script outline? Short. Probably. Well, part of this, Liz, is you're going to test it, but short form at its max 3 minutes, probably more preferable is 90 seconds. It's a little bit of a lengthy elevator pitch. I really like the rule of three. If I'm going to talk about myself, I'm not going to talk about more than 3 items because the human brain cannot attach to more than 3 at a time. It really struggles. That's why the rule of 3 is such a powerful tool and technique in communication. If you throw 5 or 7 or 8 things at somebody, they're only going to remember 3 of them. And so just focus in on 3. So focus in on 3 key skills and strengths that you have. Maybe expand on each one a little bit, but I would prefer 90 seconds or less if you can. And then how you shoot it and edit it, I'm not sure. That's up to you, but we can talk more about it. One person, one position and multiple applicants. How do I deal with that scenario? That's every scenario. That's going to be 100% of jobs that you apply to. So if there's one job, there's going to most likely be hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. And so how do you deal with that scenario? You stop applying. People don't love that advice. Like they run for the hills, they get scared, they get really worried. Why? Job applications don't equal jobs. It's actually quite the opposite. The likelihood of getting a job through an application's low single digits, 1%, 2%, 3%. In today's employer-based market and tough job market, it's such a low percentage. So focus on not applying. Focus on building a strong LinkedIn profile. Focus on networking. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what's networking? Like that's really broad. And what am I supposed to do? 2 great ways to network on LinkedIn. They're both give first. Write LinkedIn recommendations for people you've worked with in the past. Specifically prioritize people who are at companies who you might want to work for or you think they can actually help you. And then reach out to hiring managers that you think are hiring managers and just say, hey, Sue, checked out your profile. Looks amazing. Wanted to share this cool article at the intersection of AI and program management. I hope you find it interesting. Give, give, give. The application world, it's not working anymore. It's ruined by the way that these systems set up applying. So my recommendation is to not apply. And I know it's easier said than done, but one application a day, maybe two max. I always thought of applying to Google as one of my dream companies, how to go about it. Again, like, it's pretty straightforward. Like, obviously, if you want to go to the careers page and apply directly, you can. It's just those jobs get thousands and thousands of applicants. So how do you stand out? The best way to get into Google is to get referred. I mean, that is just hands down, like, the percentage of people who get jobs through applications at Google is definitely under 1%. So it's extremely tough. So again, you can follow the process of just going to the Google's careers page, but my recommendation is try to get referred in. It's not easy if you don't have anybody to refer you in, but this is where the networking piece comes into play. I know it's tough advice, but hopefully it helps. If it's taking a year on average to find a job, what do you tell the recruiter you've been doing this past year? What else can you do to sound more productive? Well, I mean, I hope. Oh, wow, I'm saying this and now I'm like confused at whether I support what I'm saying, that recruiters should be empathetic and knowledgeable to the current job market. I don't know that that's a true statement. But I do think that, as Liz mentioned earlier, if they ask what you've been doing, you could say, I have a specific plan, a job search for 6 hours a day, and I do learning for 2 hours a day. I'd be happy to talk about some of the ways that I've been learning over the last year, if you'd like me to share those with you, because learning can be anything. Learning can be getting a certification. Learning could be watching 2 hours of TikToks on AI a day. It could be listening to Audible books. It could be lots of different things. But just be ready to discuss how you've been learning. And if you haven't been, it's something I recommend, just because there's just so much amazing content to take in these days. Okay. Definitely agree with the 5 minutes to update the summary. Do you think job description keyword alignment throughout the resume is important? I mean, it is, but like, are we going to do it? It's like, I just want to have an honest conversation, right? It's like, if I want to apply to a job, am I not only going to change out the summary? What I mean is you should have a bulleted 5 to 7 bullets summary at the top of your resume. And that should be very job description aligned. So you throw the job description, your resume into GPT or whatever your preferred large language model is. And you say, write a 5 to 7 bullet summary based on my resume and the job description. Boom, it'll spit it out in 30 seconds or less. You'll have it, and then you can tweak it and play around with it. But to then go back and recraft your entire resume, you can work again with an AI tool to do that. I just wouldn't be doing it every time. Now, if you have a lot of time and it's something you want to do, you can, but I like to focus on the summary section. But I just think that having to revamp and do the resume over every time sounds really stressful. That's all. Thank you, Jeff. I'm excited, and we'll have this created by next week. I've heard this helps audience decide to interview you or not. Might help get into the loop. That's the biggest challenge at the minute. Yeah. And Liz, I would challenge you to just ask why that can't be done today. Right. And so, like, if you feel like it's really valuable, I'm going to push you to say, get it done today. You can do one take and then you can reshoot it, right? Like, if you don't like it, reshoot it. What I try to do with my videos is I try to do one take. If I fumble over a couple words, I'm not going to Not going to edit it. I'm not worried about it. I like using common language. And in these lives, everybody knows I fumble quite a bit. But I would just encourage you to do it today. And then let me know when it's done. Putting some pressure on you. For Google through referral, what's the chance? There are many ex-colleagues there. One of them created a referral for me, which is valid for only a few days. Nobody can tell you the chances of success. And the reason why I come back and I say that is because if I'm giving you percentage chances, I'm not I'm not providing value, right? Like I can never tell you the chance of anything. What I can tell you is that it's an advantage to have a referral. The likelihood that your resume gets looked at after you've been referred and then filled out the application is much, much higher than somebody who hasn't been referred. So I also say, like, pick jobs that you think are really well aligned when getting referred, you know? And lastly, push those refers. Like push those refers to help you as much as they can. When we have a person, we just got to beg, plead, bribe. Maybe they love coffee. So you find this like gourmet coffee that you send to them or something. But we really got to lean into our referrers. Like I just say lean, push. If eventually they get sick of you, okay. But like the goal is to get in front of as many roles through that referral as possible. And it sounds like if you have a lot of connections, you have a huge advantage over a lot of other people. Hey, David, thanks for being here. My friend at Amazon is in the process of becoming a part of the interview team and told me she was taught to answer this question. Would this person be in the top 50% of the team? How can that be measured? So, okay, sorry, David. This person is being asked to ask that question to themselves as they're interviewing the candidate. Am I understanding that correctly? Okay, Liz. Yeah, and again, like we all procrastinate on stuff. I mean, well, there's very few of us who I think there's probably very few of us who don't procrastinate, right? Like procrastination, like I'm fantastic when I have a deadline. But when I don't have a deadline, it can be more challenging. When you run your own business, you have 10 million things to do, so you don't know what to do. So you end up doing nothing, and then months and years go by, and you wonder where you're at, right? But yeah, it's just if we have something in front of us that we think is important and valuable, we do it immediately. And that would just be my recommendation to you, Liz, is that you just do it immediately. It seemed to connect with you that doing a video, and by the way, I will take a quick step back for anybody who wasn't here. Liz is thinking about doing like an elevator pitch type of video that she's going to put on her LinkedIn profile. My recommendation is in the featured section. And so I'm just encouraging Liz to do it immediately and not wait. And when it comes to job search stuff, what's the lowest hanging fruit? What can we tackle immediately that's going to really help us move the needle in a really, really tough job market? Yes, she was told to try and determine if the candidate she'd interview would be in the top 50% performer if hired. I don't understand how that can be quantified. It cannot. It's absolutely an insane thing to ask. But Amazon's a little crazy, so it's not surprising, right? But there's no way that we can spend 45 minutes with someone or an hour or a half hour and say, wow, that person's definitely going to be in the top 50%. I mean, we can guess, but we don't know for sure. We never know. And of course, some people are really good at interviewing, but they're not great employees. And some people are not great at interviewing and they'd be a fantastic employee. And that's why all of us need to practice our interview skills to make sure that we're highlighting the best aspects, facets of who we are, what we're capable of. But yeah, I mean, again, I don't think job interviews are going to be around much longer. So it's something that they can look at today, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be around for too much longer. I thought so. Seems more like a gut feel rather than a true measure. Yeah, and like that's why rubrics can be really powerful. It's like, okay, this person, in terms of how they answered questions, I really saw them on the leadership level hitting a high rubric. And then if they hit high rubrics in the areas you're hearing the key items, terms, things you want to hear from them, then we can qualify, okay, based on the fact that they were like a 5 out of 5 on all these rubrics, that's enough for me to say I can accurately or somewhat accurately say, hey, I think they'll be in the top 50%. I think one of the things that I realized at Google was when I interviewed, it was Google's philosophy was you're not just hiring for them for this job, but for their just future potential. That was the mindset back then. And so like that was a great way to look at it. Like, okay, if this person was going to do not this job, but another job, would they be good at it? And I was always thinking through that. And I felt like that helped me make good decisions. I will say that I had an amazing track record at Google. Everybody that I recommended should be hired actually did get hired. And there was not a single person who I recommended shouldn't get hired, got hired. But I was also really tough. A lot of the people that they did hire, I did not recommend them at that level. I recommended them at a level down from what they ended up getting hired at. But I was incredibly tough. I think I wouldn't be quite as tough now as I was then. Okay, we are only about 37 minutes into this live. We tend to go, we almost always hit an hour, almost always. If we don't today, that's okay. Let's go back to mental health while job searching. So a few of the tips that I've brought up: set some really good goals, have really good planning, but work and begin your day with gratitude, mindset, breathing, exercise. Make that the foundation of the start of your day, because that physical will carry over to the mental and it will make your days much more impactful. But at the end of each day, set the plan for the following day. And maybe you decide you want a job search Monday through Thursday. Great. It's hard enough being in job search mode. I also think, like, again, not the 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day. Kind of target like 6 hours a day. That's a really healthy amount of time. The vast majority of that time should be spent on LinkedIn, in my opinion. And then just make sure maybe you do like Monday through Thursday is only behind the computer, and then one day a week you go do something in person. That doesn't have to be a formal networking event. That could be doing something like community service. That's a great way to meet people, find job opportunities. So all sorts of different paths you can take. Hey, great topic. Watching from the UK, and job search has taken almost a year now, and it's really draining my mental resources. Yeah. Again, I would also look at 100% with you. Like, it's terrible. It's really, really hard. And so, how have you changed over the last year? How have you changed your strategies, done things differently? Has it always looked pretty similar, or has it changed and evolved? Because I think that's also part of our mental health. If we get stuck in patterns that haven't been successful, we need to break those patterns and go do something different. But yeah, I think average job search is about a year. That's what I think it looks like for most professionals these days. How frequent you do these live sessions? These are really good. Thank you so much for your valuable feedback. Absolutely. 9 a.m. Pacific time in the US every Tuesday. And if I'm ever going to be off, I will always let the audience know through the YouTube community specifically. That's where I like to let people know whether I'm going to go live or whether I'm taking a week off. So last week I was at a conference, so I took off from doing original content and the lives. So typically my weekly schedule now moving forward is Monday, I'll release a long form content video. Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time in the US, a live session. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, a short each day. I'm really going to try and push more shorts. It's really important as a content creator that as the views go down, I do more, not less. And it's like, I think a lot of people, if you look at the views of my videos, Everything I've produced in the last like 2 or 3 years, just nothing's really hit. And that's okay, right? What I'm trying to do is just stay massively consistent, and hopefully that content helps. All right, we're 40 minutes in. Here's what I want to do. We had kind of a slow session. We're coming into the summertime, so I won't always come in with the expectation that we're going to go an hour. I mean, my goal is always to hit an hour, but if we don't hit it, it's okay. Let me go a little bit into my wrap up. And of course, if any additional questions come up as I go into this wrap up, I'm happy to answer any additional questions. If you haven't checked out app.practiceinterviews.com, try the free trial. You have nothing to lose by trying the free trial. And you're going to see instantly that the tool sounds a lot like me. If you've watched any of my videos, we put a lot of time and money into it. So we hope you find it extremely valuable. I'm still doing one-on-one practice interviews, one-on-one strategy sessions. That's resume and LinkedIn, and one-on-one networking strategies. We work on that. And then the last one is one-on-one negotiation. Look, you're going to crush your negotiations if you work with somebody. It doesn't have to be with me, but like the cost versus the ROI is crazy. Still have that interview mastery course, all updated for AI at the end of last year. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, and new original long form content every Monday. I'm going to start doing shorts Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of every week. If you like what I did today, smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for being here. I know it was a short session, but I appreciate everybody showing up. And I'm going to answer this last question before hopping off. Hey, Jeff, how was the conference? Hope you're doing well. Sorry you joined a little late. No, I'm just always happy to have you here. The conference was fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. Great opportunity to meet some fantastic people and stretch myself outside of my comfort zone. So it was awesome. And I went to college in Pennsylvania. I hadn't been to Philly in a long time. So that part was really cool. I got to see 6 very close college friends who I had not seen in a long time. So that was great too. So it was not just a great business trip, but because I went to college in Pennsylvania and I never make it back to that area. When I go back east, I usually go to Boston. So it was just nice to see and reconnect with some old friends. I think I've evolved in my job selections and the updates to the resume and LinkedIn, but I've been very resistant to networking, thinking I should start as a change. Look, if we network with a give first model, what's the risk, Daphne, right? Like if you went in today and you reached out to 10, what you think are hiring managers on LinkedIn, a lot of times you won't know when you said, hey, Sue, Jane, Bob, Tim, Jenny, like, here's this cool article. Here's this cool video. Your background is killer. You wrote 2 LinkedIn recommendations. Like, just give, 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 give. It's easy to network when you give. You're not putting anything at risk. You're not asking anybody for anything. You're expecting that they'll come back and give you something because of the law of reciprocity. And that's why the give first model works. People feel the need. It's a human need for reciprocity. And so, like, I think I mentioned this like a few weeks ago. First of all, if you haven't read the book Influence, it's a fantastic book. But it talks about a case study where, like, just by giving somebody like a bottle or can of Coke, like they were willing to do like 4 hours of community service, but the people who didn't get the can of Coke were like, way less likely to do it. So it's a reciprocity thing. And that's why the give first model works really, really well. Grade live and engagement. Get after it, Daphne, and then come back. Track your efforts. And let's set the goal. 50 pieces of reach out from a networking standpoint, whether it's LinkedIn recommendations or LinkedIn connection requests with a note giving first. Try that. Try and give away 50 pieces of value over the next week. Let's see if you can do it. You and Liz, as 2 of my most valued community members who show up here week after week, I want to put pressure on both of you to show up for yourselves over the next week. And if you do, you'll feel amazing. Should you reach out to recruiters? What can we give them? No, I wouldn't do it. I don't think it's a good use of time. You can, but I just don't reach out to recruiters. The only time I would reach out to a recruiter, like, on LinkedIn is if they actually posted a job and said they were, like, looking for people to reach out to them, then I would. Otherwise, they just get so inundated. I actually don't blame them for that. They just get so inundated on LinkedIn that it's hard to follow up with people, so I don't recommend recruiters. 50, Daphne. Liz, you're gonna have that video done. You're gonna email me when that video is done. Daphne, you're gonna do the 50 reach outs, and then you're gonna come back next week and tell me how it went. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here for this short session today. Okay, awesome. Awesome, Liz. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I know it was a short session today, but I appreciate everybody, and I will be back next week at 9 a.m. Pacific time in the US. Thanks, David, and thanks, everybody. Take care.